Cross-universe matchups always spark a ton of debate. In this video, I'm attempting one of my most ambitious versus battles. We'll be pitting Ichigo Kurosaki from Bleach against Son Goku from Dragon Ball. Ichigo gains his powers through various different circumstances and his hybrid heritage, allowing him to fight in order to protect those that he cares about, while barely understanding the depths of his own abilities. While Goku, on the other hand, has spent his entire existence pursuing strength, breaking through his limits, and treating combat and a worthy adversary as the greatest joy in his life. When pitting these two characters against each other, the conversation immediately centers on one question: which version of Goku are we talking about? Ichigo, at his peak from the 1000-year Blood War arc, scales to beings who threaten to collapse 3 universe-sized realms. Ichigo stands amongst the strongest characters within Bleach, a Soul King candidate whose power exceeded the Royal Guard members who protect the Soul King's palace. Finding a fair version of Goku for this matchup requires examining his progress from Dragon Ball to Dragon Ball Z and into Dragon Ball Super. Goku's power curve spans from planet busting in the Saiyan Saga to universe-level threats by Battle of Gods. Somewhere along this progression exists a version of Goku that gives Ichigo a competitive fight, and later into Dragon Ball Super exists a version of Goku that makes competition impossible for Ichigo. I ran 2 separate community polls on this matchup, and the results reveal something fascinating about where Ichigo falls on Dragon Ball's power progression. I'll be examining both of those polls at the end of this video to validate the analysis here. But you know who Mastered Ultra Instinct Goku can face off against? All of those who are subscribed to this channel. Only 20% of the people who watch these videos are subscribed, so if you enjoy these videos and you want to see more, make sure you hit the bell icon and the subscribe button. So let's begin by establishing the rules of the fight. The battlefield will be on neutral ground with no environmental advantages for either opponent. There is also no outside assistance from anybody else. It is a purely one-on-one fight. The version of Ichigo who will be here will be from the 1000-year Blood War arc, as he has access to his true Shikai, true Bankai, and the Horn of Salvation transformation. He possesses his merged hollow powers, his latent Quincy abilities including Blood Vein and potentially Blood Artery, and his full arsenal of Getsuga Tensho techniques, including the Grand Ray Getsuga, which Ichigo uses in chapter 676. When it comes to Goku, we need to examine multiple points on his power progression. We'll be analysing Super Saiyan 3 from the Buu Saga in detail, then examining the jump to Super Saiyan God during Battle of Gods, as we explain why the Battle of Gods Super Saiyan God transformation fundamentally changes this matchup. When conditions are death or complete incapacitation, neither combatant is able to retreat or surrender. Now we need to talk about a frequently asked question in these Bleach versus matchups. Can Goku even see Ichigo in his Shinigami form? Well, souls in Bleach remain invisible to beings without sufficient spiritual awareness. However, Goku's ki sensing allows him to perceive and track spiritual energy regardless of visual detection. But in Dragon Ball, we've seen characters interact with each other even when they have a halo above their head. Take, for example, Majin Vegeta versus Goku when he was on Earth temporarily for those 24 hours. Goku's also fought beings like Beerus, whose divine ki remains imperceptible to mortals, gods whose presence transcends normal sensory perception. Visibility becomes a non-issue when your opponent can sense your energy signature across different dimensional boundaries. Now let's go over each of the characters. Ichigo possesses one of the most absurd hybrid bloodlines in all of anime. Via his father Isshin, a former Shinigami captain, he inherited Shinigami powers. Through his mother Masaki, a Quincy infected by a experimental hollow known as White, he gained both Quincy abilities and an inner hollow that fused with his father's Shinigami powers. His Fullbring powers emerged through exposure to his mother's spiritual pressure while in the womb. These Fullbring powers fused permanently with his Shinigami powers during the Fullbring arc. This combination created someone Yhwach designated as the #1 special war power among 5 individuals capable of altering the outcome of the Quincy War. Now, Yhwach, the Quincy Emperor, possesses a unique ability called the Almighty. This power allows him to see all possible futures and alter them at will. Despite this omniscient foresight, he still considered Ichigo's growth potential the single most dangerous variable in his plans. Yhwach was literally unable to predict where Ichigo's power ceiling was. This scaling derives from concrete feats like cutting down the weakened Soul King, slicing through casual attacks from a Soul King empowered Yhwach, and being confirmed as fit to replace the Soul King himself in the anime exclusive scenes where he walks down the path of Irazusando. The Contvia Onward light novels, which are set 6 months after the 1000-year Blood War arc, established that Ichigo is one of 3 people alive who is capable of defeating the hybrid being Hikone at full power. Hikone served as a Soul King candidate, possessing the combined abilities of a Fullbringer, Hollow, Quincy, Shinigami, and a human. Ichigo exists at this same level, which places him among the absolute strongest beings in the cosmology of Bleach. He defeated Soul King empowered Yhwach with a Getsuga Tensho. His merged hollow form with Horn of Salvation amplifies Ichigo's capabilities through a transformation which mirrors his Vasto Lorde state from the Ukiura fight. The left side of his face changes to resemble his inner hollow's appearance, with the larger blade of Zangetsu also turning white. The multiplier that occurs with the Horn of Salvation has caused a lot of debate amongst fans. Conservative estimates place this transformation at 10 times base power, matching standard Bankai multipliers. However, some scalers do argue for a 100 times multiplier based on Kubo's statements that the form represents an incomplete mastery of his Vasto Lorde transformation, as Kubo refers to the Horn of Salvation as the half-hollow transformation. If Ichigo fully mastered it, he would look more like his full hollow form with 2 horns and a complete mask. So some fans have argued that even incomplete access to Vasto Lorde power may grant multipliers that are comparable to an Espada's Segunda Etapa. Gran Rey Zero combined with Getsuga Tensho becomes available in the Horn of Salvation form. It's called Zero Crescent or the Gran Rey Getsuga. This attack wounded Soul King empowered Yhwach severely enough that he acknowledged he needed to take Ichigo seriously. Before this, Yhwach had been treating the fight casually despite Ichigo's best efforts. A lot of the scaling argument for Ichigo centers upon Yhwach and the 3 realms. When the Soul King died, the realms began collapsing. Yhwach absorbed the Soul King's power, which made him the new linchpin maintaining the separation between worlds. Ichigo was also shown to be able to withstand the entire burden of the 3 realms when he crossed the path of Irazusando. Now, the Bleach realms function as universal scale spaces. The human world contains the same celestial bodies, stars, and galaxies as our universe. The Soul Society exists as a parallel dimension with its own day and night cycle, meaning it possesses its own sun, solar system, and by extension galaxies and cosmological structures. We've seen stars in the night sky of the Soul Society, which further confirms this. The prison realm of Muken alone is stated to be infinite in size. When Senjumaru released her Bankai in the 1000-year Blood War arc anime, the power of this activation alone shook all 3 realms at the same time. Ichigo scales above Senjumaru, meaning that his power output would produce equal or greater effects. Speed scaling places Ichigo at hundreds of times faster than light at his peak. Throughout Bleach, characters consistently perform faster than light speed feats. Uryu outpaced his own shadow, Renji outsped Mask the Masculine's light beam, Ichigo blitzes characters who perceive and react to these speeds while weakened and exhausted. With Bankai multipliers stacked on holification, his combat speed reaches roughly 100 to 150 times light speed by most conservative calculations. While this is very impressive within the framework of Bleach, we need to address how this compares to Dragon Ball scaling. Blutveen provides defensive enhancement via his Quincy heritage, and the anime explicitly states that Blutveen amplifies durability, which is proportional to a Bankai level increase, essentially adding another 5 to 10 times multiplier to his survivability. Combine this with his already formidable spiritual pressure, and this allows Ichigo to tank attacks from Newhobak with virtually no damage. Goku's scaling requires examining different points in his progression to establish where Ichigo's ceiling exists. During the Buu Saga, Super Saiyan 3 Goku demonstrates impressive power with quantifiable scaling. His transformation shook the living world and affected the other world across dimensional boundaries. Super Buu's Vice Shout threatened to completely break down the fabric of space-time, causing alternate dimensions to leak into each other and eventually crush the universe entirely. Multiple statements confirm this resulted from his power rather than special technique. Goku at Super Saiyan 3 exceeds Super Buu's power tier. Power scaling places Super Saiyan 3 Goku at solar system level attack potency. This scaling derives from Cell's statement that a solar Kamehameha contained enough power to destroy the solar system, combined with multiplier stacking through the Super Saiyan forms. Base Goku in the Buu Saga exceeds his Cell Saga Super Saiyan self. Super Saiyan multiplies this by 50, Super Saiyan 2 doubles that, and Super Saiyan 3 quadruples it further. Here's where the comparison becomes interesting. The gap between solar system level and galaxy level spans enormous magnitudes. A galaxy contains hundreds of billions of stars and solar systems. Ichigo's galaxy to multi-galaxy output dramatically exceeds Goku's solar system tier at Super Saiyan 3. Even accounting for different scaling methodologies, the gap in raw destructive power favors Ichigo. Speed tells a different story at Super Saiyan 3. Goku operates at millions of times faster than light, based on scaling feats from Kid Buu traveling across galaxies and Goku exceeding that speed. Conservative estimates place Super Saiyan 3 around 3 million times light speed. Compared to Ichigo's roughly 100 times light speed, Goku holds approximately a 30,000 times speed advantage. This gap is massive and cannot be ignored. The question becomes whether if Ichigo's dramatically superior power output compensates for being dramatically slower. Goku's combat experience spans decades of consistent training and life-or-death battles. His martial arts mastery allows him to replicate techniques after having seen them once, adapting to fighting styles mid-combat and being able to devise new applications on the fly. He was the first to master the Super Saiyan state efficiently, making it highly sustainable for extended combat. Against Cell, a being created with the DNA and fight data that Jiro collected from Earth and Namek, Goku fought as an equal despite Cell possessing literal copies of his techniques and mannerisms. Instant transmission provides tactical repositioning, allowing teleportation to any location where he can sense a key signature. Against Ichigo, this enables Goku to control engagement distance and timing, forcing the Shinigami to react rather than dictate the flow of combat. The limitation at Super Saiyan 3 comes from stamina drain. Goku can only maintain Super Saiyan 3 for minutes against equal opponents before exhaustion. In a prolonged fight against someone exceeding his output, this time limit becomes a critical vulnerability. Ichigo possessing dramatically superior raw power at this tier could potentially outlast Goku's Super Saiyan 3 duration through defensive play. Then Battle of Gods happens and the conversation does shift fundamentally. Super Saiyan God introduces Divine Ki to Goku's arsenal. When he achieves this form through the ritual of 5 righteous Saiyans, he fights a suppressed Beerus. Their clash generates shockwaves that shake the entire macrocosm and threaten to destroy it from its edges. The narrator explicitly confirms this threat. The show depicts these shockwaves propagating across Universe 7, affecting the living universe, the afterlife realm, and the Kaioshin dimension as separate space-time structures all at the same time. Power scaling places Super Saiyan God at low multiversal, affecting 3 space-time continuums through clash shockwaves alone. This represents categorical advancement from solar system scaling to universal plus territory. By the fight's conclusion, Goku absorbs Super Saiyan God's power into his base form. His body learned Divine Ki and incorporated it as a foundation. Subsequent transformations stack on this universal baseline rather than his previous solar system foundation. The director of the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie, Tatsuya Nagamine, noted that Super Saiyan God God utilizes different fighting philosophy than previous forms. Rather than overwhelming power, Super Saiyan God emphasizes prediction, dodging, and technique. The form makes Goku skinnier, faster, and more graceful. The Super Broly movie demonstrates additional Super Saiyan God techniques like Godbind, which paralyzes opponents from a distance through focused consciousness, and internal energy detonations, which bypass conventional durability by exploding from within opponent bodies. The speed gap between Ichigo and Goku demands an honest explanation. Goku at Super Saiyan 3 moves roughly 30,000 times faster than Ichigo at his peak. In pure reaction time, Goku could theoretically land thousands of attacks before Ichigo processes a single movement. However, three factors prevent this from being an automatic win. First, Ichigo's instinctive combat abilities allow him to dodge and parry attacks without conscious thought. Against Ulquiorra, he blocked strikes while his mind hadn't registered the danger. This unconscious defense partially compensates for raw speed disadvantage, though it cannot fully bridge a 30,000 times gap. Secondly, Goku's attack at Super Saiyan 3 carries solar system level energy, while Ichigo's defenses scale to galaxy level threats. Even landing thousands of hits, each individual strike may fail to penetrate Blood Vein enhanced durability. Ichigo tanks attacks from Yhwach, and Super Saiyan 3 Goku's output falls below the threshold of Yhwach, who, like we've mentioned, scales at 3 universal scale realms. Thirdly, Super Saiyan 3 Goku's stamina drain creates urgency. Goku cannot maintain this form indefinitely. If his speed blitz fails to incapacitate Ichigo within minutes, he faces an opponent who still possesses full combat capability while his own power fades. A single clean Getsuga Tensho carrying galaxy level energy against someone whose durability scales to solar system level could end the fight instantaneously. The matchup becomes a race. Can Goku's speed advantage accumulate enough damage before his Super Saiyan 3 expires? Or can Ichigo survive the initial onslaught and land a decisive counter? Both outcomes are very plausible, which explains why a lot of fans debate that this matchup is genuinely competitive. Now, if you consider the scaling honestly, Super Saiyan 3 Goku in the Buu arc wasn't a threat to the entire Dragon Ball cosmology, his entire universe, or even the realm of the living as a whole. Super Buu's dimension-tearing screams represented impressive power, but this still falls within solar system to potentially low galaxy level interpretation if you were to highball this at the absolute max. Ichigo scales to beings whose existence maintains separation between 3 universal scale structures. The gap favors Ichigo in raw output. Ichigo fought someone who could see every possible future and won, while Super Saiyan 3 Goku couldn't defeat Kid Buu without fusion or Spirit Bomb assistance. When Bleach characters shake the 3 realms, they threaten fragile boundaries between worlds designed to remain separate. When Dragon Ball characters threaten universal destruction, they generate raw force propagating through stable dimensional structures regardless of design. Ichigo's power shakes the pillars of the house, threatening collapse through structural weakness. Goku's power shakes the house itself through brute force. This is the best metaphor that I can use in a matchup between these two. Super Saiyan 3 doesn't actually threaten to destroy the universe through his attacks. Super Buu's Vice Shout represented an exceptional application of power rather than standard combat output. Ichigo scaling to Soul King candidate level places him at or above Buu Saga threats through direct scaling chains. There is a massive jump from Super Saiyan 3 to Super Saiyan God. Consider what Super Saiyan God Goku accomplishes in Battle of Gods. His clashes with Beerus threaten to destroy everything in its path. By the end of the fight, he nullifies an attack that would have destroyed the universe by punching through it with superior energy output. He accomplishes this while Beerus remains suppressed. Super Saiyan God Goku reacts to attacks that travel at speeds that cross universal distances in moments. His perception operates so far beyond Ichigo's demonstrated capabilities that competitive exchange becomes physically impossible. Ichigo's massively faster than light combat speed still falls dramatically short of someone processing combat at Super Saiyan God reaction thresholds. Now let's compare each of their abilities. When it comes to Reiatsu and Ki, they function pretty similarly for cross-scaling purposes. Both represent spiritual energy projected offensively, sensed for detection, and concentrated to amplify physical abilities. Ichigo's Getsuga Tensho represents his primary offensive technique, highly condensed spiritual pressure which releases as crescent-shaped slashes or omnidirectional bursts. Goku's key techniques span dozens of variations. The Kamehameha serves as a signature attack adaptable to any situation. At Super Saiyan God level, his key output matches universal destruction as demonstrated through his fight with Beerus. The energy gap at Super Saiyan God tier makes direct comparison one-sided. Hack's abilities do slightly favor Ichigo. BLEACH provides both defensive and potentially offensive enhancement. His spiritual nature allows perception of beings invisible to normal sight. Hollow regeneration recovers from otherwise fatal wounds. And then that's not even mentioning the true ability of his Bankai, which some fans have theorized as the ability to reject fate itself. In terms of physical combat, raw strength at Super Saiyan 3 level exists in ranges where Goku's speed advantages contest Ichigo's power advantage. Ichigo's swordsmanship has been developed through his fights against opponents who have fought for centuries. Goku's martial arts mastery spans his entire life as he learned fundamentals under Master Roshi. He further refined his techniques with Korin and Kami, and he learned even new abilities under King Kai. He's continued to evolve through every subsequent battle that he has had. His Saiyan instincts allow improvement through fights rather than remaining static. At Super Saiyan God level, physical stat comparisons are meaningless. Universal striking strength means that every punch carries energy sufficient to destroy universal scale structures. So earlier we spoke about Super Saiyan 3 lacking the stamina and power required to face off against Ichigo, despite having incredible speed, while Super Saiyan God bridges this gap. Now, not only is Super Saiyan God Goku faster than Ichigo, his punches now carry a lot more weight, so Ichigo is going to have to survive multiple clashes that are at a universal scale. Ichigo's combat intelligence evolved throughout the progression of Bleach. By the 1000-year Blood War arc, he coordinates with allies, times power-ups for maximum impact, and he adapts strategy based on opponent capabilities. His fight with Yhwach represents peak tactical Ichigo, who was coordinating with Orihime to activate the Horn of Salvation using Yhwach's Reiatsu as a catalyst. Goku's battle genius operates through pattern recognition and instinctive adaptation. He does have a tendency to let opponents power up, which creates openings, but he rarely underestimates threats. Both Ichigo and Goku excel at reactive combat adaptation. This category cannot determine outcomes when physical stat gaps reach the magnitude separating Super Saiyan God from Ichigo's tier. Ichigo's durability scales to his attack potency. Bloodveen amplifies this by Bankai level multipliers. The anime confirms that he tanks attacks from Yhwach with virtually no damage while Bloodveen remains active. As a Soul King candidate, his defensive threshold reaches universal level, whereas Super Saiyan God Goku's durability reaches multiversal levels. When considering stamina, it favors Ichigo considerably against Super Saiyan 3, where Goku's transformation drains his stamina rapidly, but against Super Saiyan God, the fight ends too quickly for stamina to even matter. Ichigo's peak combines his true Bankai with his Horn of Salvation form. His true Bankai's unique ability remains unrevealed, leaving some untapped potential. At max output, Ichigo threatens universal scale structures via him being a worthy Soul King candidate. Super Saiyan God grants Goku capabilities beyond raw power. The form provides resistance to abilities that affect normal mortals. His ki becomes undetectable to anyone below God level perception. Godbind paralyzes opponents from a distance. Internal energy detonations bypass conventional durability. If Ichigo's attacks could land consistently against Super Saiyan God Goku, then this fight would become a lot closer than most would think. The problem remains in speed disparity, making consistent hits nearly impossible. Combine this with the universal versus multiversal gap between Ichigo and Super Saiyan God Goku, and it means that even successful attacks fail to inflict significant damage. Let's have a look at both scenarios playing out. First, Super Saiyan 3 Goku versus 1000-year Blood War Ichigo. The fight opens with Goku testing his opponent as usual. A few probing jabs, nothing serious. Ichigo responds with a Getsuga Tensho that Goku easily sidesteps. The speed difference becomes immediately apparent. Goku circles Ichigo, landing combinations from angles that the Shinigami barely perceives. Ichigo's body reacts on instinct as Zangetsu moves to block attacks that his conscious mind hasn't registered. Minutes pass as Goku has landed hundreds of strikes. Ichigo bleeds from shallow cuts. His Shihakusho is torn in pieces, but he's still standing. standing. Blood vein pulses through his veins, absorbing punishment that should have ended this fight already. Goku notices his breathing growing heavier as Super Saiyan 3's energy drain has begun. Ichigo then activates the Horn of Salvation. His spiritual pressure spikes dramatically. The transformation binds him a fraction more of reaction time. His hollow instincts sharpen his perception. He launches the Gran Rei Sero Getsuga as Goku dodges, but the blast's edge clips him. For the first time, he feels genuine pain in the fight. Universal level energy from a Soul King candidate tears through the solar system level durability of Super Saiyan 3 Goku. The battle becomes desperate as Goku pushes Super Saiyan 3 to its limits, trying to end this before his stamina collapses entirely. Ichigo weathers the storm through regeneration and defensive instincts which have been honed against opponents who outclassed him his entire fight career. He's fought beings who could see the future. He's fought transcendent entities. He knows how to survive against superior opponents until an opening appears. Ichigo vs Super Saiyan 3 Goku is a battle where both opponents possess the tools to win, but I do think that Ichigo edges it out slightly and takes the victory from Super Saiyan 3 Goku. When looking at Super Saiyan God vs Thousand Year Blood War Ichigo, the fight opens and ends in the same moment. Goku ascends to Super Saiyan God. Red aura flickers around his leaner frame. Ichigo launches his fastest attack at point blank with the Getsuga Tensho carrying everything that he possesses. Goku catches the blade between two fingers. The energy disperses harmlessly against durability that tanks multiversal destruction. Goku hasn't moved from his original position. To his perception, Ichigo approached in slow motion. Every micro expression was readable. Ichigo goes on to activate the Horn of Salvation, desperately seeking any advantage, as Goku watches the transformation complete with mild interest. The Gran Rei Sero launches. As Goku doesn't dodge, he lets it hit. The blast that wounded Soul King empowered Yhwach splashes against Goku's chest like water against stone. Universal, or highballing it, add universal plus energy against a multiversal opponent's durability. The attack is going to be easily tanked. Ichigo threatens 3 realms through his Soul King candidacy. Goku actively destroys 3 space-time continuums through punch shockwaves. The gap is incredibly decisive. Goku activates Godbind. Ichigo freezes mid-motion. He's paralyzed by Divine Ki, constraining his spiritual body. Goku could end this with a finger flick. The gap between them spans the distance between mortal and god, between universal and multiversal. At this point, it's a demonstration of why tier differences matter more than matchup specifics. Ichigo possesses every advantage that would matter against Super Saiyan 3, with the superior output, enhanced durability, regeneration, hybrid versatility, but none of this matters when Goku starts to exist on a fundamentally different scale. Ichigo in his 1000-year Blood War arc form would struggle to meaningfully interact with Super Saiyan God Goku. This is the gap that Battle of Gods created, and this is why this matchup at the Divine tier isn't even close. And why most Bleach vs Dragon Ball matchups where the forms are Super Saiyan God or stronger would just simply be squash matches. Now, I ran 2 separate community polls for this matchup. The first asked all of you, what about Super Saiyan 3 Goku versus Ichigo from the 1000-year Blood War arc? With over 11,000 votes as of making this video, 57% thought that Ichigo would win, while only 43% thought that Goku in his Super Saiyan 3 form from the Buu saga would win. So yeah, you can see the community sees this matchup as competitive, potentially favoring Ichigo based on the scaling. The second poll I ran asked about Super Saiyan God Goku versus 1000-year Blood War Ichigo. Now this poll had a lot more of a decisive outcome. With over 7,000 votes, 62% thought that Super Saiyan God Goku would win, while only 38% thought that 1000-year Blood War Ichigo would win. In general, I agree with these results. Ichigo handles everything through the Buu saga respectably, and likely wins against Super Saiyan 3 just barely. And this is because of Goku's incredible speed. But once we get to Battle of Gods, this represents Ichigo's power ceiling. Everything beyond this exists on a scale that Bleach never really ever approaches. Now we have reached the point of the video where I want to hand over the discussion to all of you. Where do you place Ichigo on the overall progression of power in Dragon Ball? Do you think Super Saiyan 3 marks Ichigo's actual limit? Or do you think there's an actual argument for him winning against Super Saiyan God? If there's anything that I've forgotten to mention within this video, video, then let me know by continuing the discussion in the comments. And lastly, thanks for making it to the end of this one, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next video. A massive thank you goes out to all of my amazing Patreon supporters for helping to make this video possible. If you also want to support the channel and see your name in the end of my videos, then check out my Patreon, which has loads of perks like early video access and so much more. Thank you for sticking around till the end of the video, and whatever you contribute will mean a lot to me.